Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Booming Basketball channel. As always, I'm Nate here with Danny.
Yo. What's up, guys?
Today, we're going to be doing a video where we're each going to be giving 5 players, one at each position of players we think are bound for a breakout year in the 2023-2024 NBA season. First position up is going to be the point guard position, and we're each going to be doing 2 different players for this. It's not going to be like we're having duplicates as we did in the awards prediction video. So for the point guard position, my pick is going to be Markelle Fultz of the Orlando Magic. And first thing I actually noticed, Danny, before doing this and picking Markelle Fultz is the fact that he's going into his 7th season, which is actually just ridiculous seeming to me. I mean, it feels like he was drafted by Philly just a few years ago. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, that is a few years ago, but, you know, he doesn't feel like he's been in the league that long. Yeah, I know. Like, I feel old as shit. And I don't, it's weird because now there's players that are getting drafted that are younger than us. So it's definitely a slap in the face a little bit. I know that older people are probably going to think we're complaining about quite not severe problems, but I digress. Talking about the point guards, Markelle Fultz is my pick, and I think that he's primed for a great season in Orlando, largely because of the pieces around him. We know that his struggle for a lot of his career has been his shooting prowess and his ability from deep. He's never shot over 31% from 3 in his career, and he's never made a 3 per game in his career. So, you know, he's been a good inside scorer, shot over 50% from the field in his last season. He hadn't been healthy, he dealt with some injuries a lot in Orlando, and now he seems to be healthy. I think he's the clear-cut starter at point guard for them, even though I'd like to see Anthony Black get some minutes. It depends who else they start alongside him, whether it's Suggs for defense. But Franz and Paolo and Wendell Carter in the front court, I think gives him a lot of space to shoot the ball, and they can spread the floor. Markelle Fultz loves to drive in, and when that paint is wide open is when he's at his best, and this Orlando team is really well constructed around him.
Yeah, Nate, so I really like the Markelle pick. I think that he's going to be great this year alongside Franz and Paolo. I think that those guys will really help him in terms of his development, I guess that you could say, because like we said, this is his 7th year in the league.
Yeah.
Feeling old. But no, he still definitely could progress in terms of shooting, shot selection, shot making, everything like that,
Yep.
even playmaking. And guys like Franz and Paolo who could really score the ball will help him out a lot with that. And I think that the Magic will be honestly a playing team this year. They have potential to be a playing team this year.
No, yeah, I think their young core is super underrated, and like you said, that duo of Franz and Paolo is really a great young duo that I think is super under the radar right now when you compare it to other young teams across the league. But Fultz is really a solid playmaker, and he can provide some steadiness for a young team, and I really think that he's going to be the X factor for, like, if this team wants to make a run, they're going to need Markelle Fultz to run that offense, and I think he's more than capable.
So for my breakout candidate this year at the point guard position, I'm going to go with Tyus Jones. Of course, he recently got signed to the Washington Wizards, which is basically a dumpster fire over there, but they are going into a rebuild. And honestly, as a piece of a tank or as a piece of a rebuilding young team, I think that Tyus is going to see a lot more usage than he saw last year because he established himself as probably one of the best backup point guards in the NBA last year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I mean, he was a guy who averaged 10 and 5 last year off the bench, off of about 25 minutes per game. And we're obviously going to see him get more minutes this year as he's going to start. And guys like Poole and Kuzma, hopefully they don't take away from his production. And hopefully they just contribute more to Tyus' playmaking side. And I think that the Wizards will still be god awful. I'm not gonna doubt that.
No,
but yeah. I think that Tyus can be a guy who can come out, average 13 or 14 points per game and like 7 assists because he has shot makers around him. Hopefully the consistency stays up for Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma because that would help out Tyus a lot. But like a guy like Tyus in that system, he will emerge as a breakout candidate this year in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, too, you look at Tyus and what he was able to do with Memphis. He's kind of that staple of consistency off the bench, and they kind of need that with Washington if they have really, like, no discipline or players that are going to carry an offense or be able... Unless Jordan Poole really has just a Steph Curry-like year and turns into Jesus Christ. Maybe he will, Danny. I don't know. I'm not going to rule out Jordan Poole having some crazy year, but...
It's just the consistency.
Yeah, we don't know with Jordan Poole. He's a loose cannon, not personality-wise, but on the court, we really never know what we're going to get with him, and I think Tyus will bring some of that consistency when they're lacking it. He can establish an offense, kind of in the way I was talking about Markelle Fultz for Orlando. He's going to be able to get guys shots, and he's able to find people in their spots really well. I think that he's been kind of waiting for a bigger role, and this is a perfect opportunity for him, even though Washington's not going to be good. This is a chance for Tyus to prove that he's more than just a backup point guard, and I think he's going to do that because I'm a big believer in his game. He's highly efficient, and like you said, they need someone on that team to kind of orchestrate and get shots for their shot makers. Kuzma can hit shots, Poole can hit shots, Corey Kispert off the bench can even hit some shots, and I like Denny Avdia as a developing player too. So they've got some things there in Washington, and I think Tyus is a big piece for that.
Right, and Tyus has been waiting 8 years for this breakout moment, and now he's finally able to start. So I feel like he's just not gonna let that opportunity go to waste.
Going on to the other guard position is going to be where I have Devin Vassell, and I'm going to pump the brakes here, try to not get too excited talking about Devin Vassell, but I love Devin Vassell's game. He's one of the premier 3-and-D players in the league already, and just not enough people see it because he's on the Spurs, and no one really watched the Spurs last year. But this upcoming year, there's a reason to watch the Spurs, Danny. So, you know what that means? People are going to be forced to have their eyeballs exposed to how good of a basketball player Devin Vassell is, and he averaged 18 points a game this year on 44% from the field, 39% from three, and he was in a bigger role. It was kind of him and Keldon Johnson as the two real go-to scorers after DeJounte left. I just think Devin Vassell is really going to end up becoming a near all-star level player as soon as possibly this year. So coming into this with all the attention now being on Wemby from a lot of teams, regardless of how good or not he is right away, there's going to be attention on him. So that's going to open up even more for Vassell. And I really think that Pop has done magical work so far with him because coming into the league, he was a little bit raw, but I'm really a huge fan of Vassell, and I expect him to take a huge leap again this year.
I love that pick. He's definitely going to take a huge leap again this year because it's just another year of experience under his belt. Plus, like you said, he has Wemby this year to take some of the, some of the defense off of him. And, bro, like you said, guys like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell didn't get the publicity that they should have gotten last year due to how bad the Spurs were. So
for sure.
So in terms of breakout, I don't necessarily. I mean, like I see Vassell's stats going up because, like I said, it's another year under his belt, and he has a guy like Victor to take some of the pressure off of him. But he'll break out in terms of people knowing who he is now, like how good of a basketball player he actually is.
Oh, and I totally think give it 2-3 years, Devin Vassell is going to become a household name. This Spurs team is probably on the way up. And I think he's going to be one of the premier wings in the leagues in as short as 2 to 3 years, like I said.
A few moments later.
That's crazy, though, that Victor's probably going to take, like, attention off people as a rookie.
I know. He will. Bro, he was getting fucking, like, triple teamed in the summer league. That's so OD. Like, why?
Yeah.
In the summer league, bro. Like, let him develop. Let him rock, bro. Throwing triple teams at him. So for my breakout candidate at the shooting guard spot, I'm going to go with Jalen Green. Some may argue that he broke out into a decent player, but we all know that Jalen Green has superstar potential, and I think that Jalen Green could possibly break out into a superstar potential this year. He shot awful last year. That was his main problem. He averaged 22 and 4, so just looking at that, you might think that he already broke out. He shot 42% from the field and 34% from three, which is god-awful.
Me, when a number 2 overall pick develops into a decent player.
Yeah, but I feel like having a guy like Fred VanVleet will help him. I mean, even though Fred shot horribly last year as well, so the two of them might not complement each other that well. But
the Rockets are going to be the worst field goal percentage team in the league, I bet.
I can agree with that. But I have seen videos this offseason of Fred and Jalen working out together, and I really hope that Fred just learns to push Jalen to his limit and maybe push him to the next step that he needs to reach his superstar potential. And I really just want to see Jalen Green get more consistent this year. I'm not really expecting his points to go up as much with the signing of Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet. That's obviously going to take away some of his usage. But I do think that he will shoot the ball better this year because, one, he doesn't have to take as many shots, and two, hopefully he develops some sort of conscience to not shoot awful shots.
Yeah, and I think breaking out can be more than just like stats wise and whatnot, and I can agree with that, especially now with even though Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet aren't the most flashy signings in the world, they are veterans who've been around winning teams. Fred's an NBA champion. Dylan Brooks has been on a playoff team the past 2 years, and it's just you got to get a guy or some guys that have feel for playoff basketball and experience and how a good offense is supposed to run. The Rockets last year were a bunch of just run and gun, random shots, kind of just getting as many shots up as you could. Very undisciplined basketball with Steven Silas heading whatever the hell their offense was. But now they have a new coach in with Udoka, who's obviously not going to stand, I don't think, for bad shot selection and whatever was going on in Houston last year. So you have that too. And Jalen also just has all the tools in the world to be a complete player. He could be a very good defender if someone teaches him how to be a good defender. And if there's someone to do that, I think Udoka is a guy that could do that. And Jalen Green, the best thing that could happen, I think, is him averaging like the same stat line with maybe a few more assists and just getting that field goal percentage up a few percentage points and his 3-point percentage up. Because if he's doing that, he's affecting the game a lot more positively than he is now, and I think that he's in prime position to do that with some guys coming in to help him out.
Yeah, for sure. Those veterans will also help his work ethic majorly. Like I said, it'll help him take the next step into superstardom potentially, or stardom this year. Because I wouldn't
he has all the
consider him a
tools
star
to
yet.
get there.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Moving on to the front court is going to be starting with the small forward position. And for that, I have a guy by the name of Jaden McDaniels, who kind of broke out in a way last year, at least defensively. But I think there's a whole nother region to his game that's still yet to be really tapped into. Offensively, he was really good in the playoffs, shot 50% from 3 and over 50% from the field in limited minutes. His minutes went down in the playoffs, which maybe was a product of Karl Towns being back and healthy, but I don't know. He's going to be starting probably at the small forward position. They're going to have a massive front court with McDaniels, Towns, and Rudy Gobert. But McDaniels has proven he can shoot the ball from the wing, and he has a 6'9" frame. He's really long and can really put the ball in the basket from each level. I'm not going to call him a 3-level scorer because he hasn't proven that yet, but I really think that he could develop into a very, very nice complementary piece for Minnesota, and they kind of lack that kind of wing scorer. They obviously have Towns and Gobert. I wouldn't exactly call Towns a wing scorer. He's kind of just an all-around scorer that can also score on the wing, but having a threat like that, a long body who can play defense and hit the three really well, I think Jaden McDaniels could honestly get up to 15 points a game and like 6 to 7 rebounds this year.
Yeah, I think he fits like perfectly in that Timberwolves system, only because they, like you had mentioned, they have Towns, Gobert, and they have Anthony Edwards. And guys like that will obviously, when they have the ball in their hands, the defense will be 100% focused. I mean, not Rudy Gobert, but when Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards have the ball in their hands, the defense will be 100% focused. Yeah, Mike Conley too. Well, in terms of playmaking, yeah.
Yeah, Conley's great at finding the corner too and open shooters on the wings, and even with that, McDaniels is also a very good cutter. And Conley, as old as he is, and even though he's not a star anymore, he is a very, very pretentious playmaker and has the ability to find guys. Kind of like we talked about with Markelle Fultz and Tyus Jones. Obviously, they're not the same player. Conley's been doing it for a lot longer. I don't know. I just really like McDaniels' fit, and I think he still has a lot of room to grow, and he's super young.
Yeah, if he's able to keep that jump shot consistent like he did in the playoffs, I mean, that team will be good, and he will be the sleeper of that team in the sense that he will be one of the most impactful and meaningful players on that team in terms of defense and in terms of offense this year if he keeps that shot consistent.
Yeah. He's going to be one of those guys he's not the first person you think about when you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves, but when you're actually watching and playing the games, he's one of those guys that just stands out because he does all the little things right.
For my breakout candidate at the small forward position, I have Josh Green. Josh Green had his best season ever last year, and it was due to higher usage, and he shot the best clip that he has in his entire career. He has guys like Kyrie and Luka kind of, making the defense focus on them, obviously. Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. Who? But Kyrie and Luka are two of the best offensive players in the game, so obviously the defense will be focused on them. And Luka is one of the best playmakers in the league and is one of the best at finding the open man out of the double team. So, and that's kind of what, too. Right, yeah, and that's kind of what Josh Green thrives on. And I think that we could see him take a big jump next year due to that and due to playing a full season with both Luka and Kyrie.
No, I think Josh is actually a very, very important player for them, especially because he's one of their better defenders as well. He's super athletic. He's learned to play very well off the ball, as most people will have to learn if you're playing next to Luka and now Kyrie, obviously. So Josh Green's off the ball ability, both in the catch and shoot and in the cutting game and just driving to the basket, because he's really good at going backdoor or just moving, getting the ball and dunking it, because he's super athletic and is able to just kind of get up for these crazy dunks. And I know Josh Green was a fan favorite of Mavericks fans last year, and he's very young. He was drafted at only 18 out of Australia, so he was one of those players that they knew coming in he was going to take a few years to develop, and he seems to finally be getting comfortable with his offensive game, already a very solid defender, and really, the Mavericks are in deep desperation of players like that, those 3-and-D guys, so I think that he is going to get a lot of usage. Reggie Bullock also out of there, Dorian Finney-Smith, this is going to be their first full season without him, so Josh Green is really that. He's right now their number one on their depth chart in all of their wings. They don't have a wing as good as Josh Green right now. So he's going to come in there, and he's going to be expected to probably play 30 minutes a game, and this is going to be the biggest role of his career.
And I feel like Luka's one of the best guys to play under if you're looking for somebody who is going to have a breakout year, just due to the fact that Luka takes on so much of the defense, and he just knows how to get to his spots. He knows how to manipulate the defense, and like we said, he knows how to find open corner shooters, which Josh Green is that.
And people like to make up the narrative that Luka's not a good playmaker. Not that he's not a good playmaker, but that he's a ball hog and he doesn't make his teammates better or whatever, which just isn't true. If you watch him, if his teammates are making shots, he's able to make very well. It's a lot of the times he hasn't trusted his teammates because they weren't making shots, but Josh Green was one of the few guys he seemed to trust pretty consistently last year, because Green was making his shots and took a very big step. So hopefully now it's not just the efficiency-wise, but now in bigger volume, hopefully he can continue that and to continue to develop into a very solid player.
I mean, can we use Jalen Brunson as an example of a player that kind of broke out under being Luka's teammate?
I mean, yes and no, because I just don't think that Josh Green is near the talent level of Jalen Brunson. I mean, if you saw Brunson in college.
Definitely not.
I mean,
definitely not. I was just using it as an example to the point where players can break out under Luka, and he's a good player to play with.
I mean, but he did grow a lot after Luka going to the Knicks, obviously.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Sacred. But Jalen Brunson obviously is proof that you can still, Luka does take away pressure from the defense, so you're going to be able to get shots still. If you're making your shots, that's what Brunson was. He was a low volume, high efficiency scorer, and I think Josh Green can, even though he's not nearly as skilled of a scorer as Jalen Brunson is, he can still be one of those guys that continues to have a little bit of a lower volume and be a high efficiency score, which helps your points per game go up even if you're not taking a lot of shots. Moving on to the power forward spot, the other forward position is going to be a guy that I talked about in the last video, my pick for most improved player, so I guess he's the guy I think is going to break out the most this season, and it's going to be Obadiah Richard Toppin, otherwise known as Obi Toppin, the newest acquired Pacer, and he was acquired pretty much for a bag of potato chips and a few toenail clippings. 2 second-round picks that are going to be very late in the draft, and I actually think one of them might be protected, or if not both, so they both could literally actually not happen, and whatever, we're not done to talk about that, but Obi is now in a prime position to break out after getting little opportunity in New York. It was just never going to happen with Randall there, but Obi has proven in every single time he's gotten minutes and played as a starter that he can ball out. He averages 20 points a game for his career as a starter, and even though it hasn't been in a large sample size, he has been very, very good usually when given minutes, and now he's going to be playing alongside Tyrese Halliburton, one of the fastest and best playmakers in the league. Not saying he's one of the fastest players, but when it comes to pushing the tempo and running the floor, which is Obi's strong suit, this could be a match made in heaven. They've already talked about how excited they are to have that lob threat duo, and it could be really exciting to watch, and Indiana could be one of the best go-to league pass teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like you said, Halliburton and Obi, I feel like just are like they'll be like peanut butter and jelly together. It'll just, I feel like if there's any player to complement Obi's game and to help him break out into that next level, it's going to be a guy like Tyrese Halliburton. So for my pick at the power forward position for a breakout this year is going to be Marvin Bagley. Bagley has averaged around 12 to 14 points per game for his entire career. His problem has been just that he hasn't been able to really find a significant solidified role on any team that he's been on. And the thing that really knocks him is his poor outside shot and his lack of rim protection, which hopefully can get better this year with Cade developing another year, developing as a playmaker. And this team is young, and it's just full of a lot of opportunity. They have a young guard core, they have a young front court, and I think it's a great opportunity for Marvin Bagley. And honestly, I hope that Cade's playmaking ability at least gives Bagley open looks to try to improve his outside shot. Even though that this year shouldn't necessarily be an experiment for the Pistons, it somewhat should be.
I mean, I think the Pistons, their situation is it's so weird because they have so much young talent that's kind of all jumbled together. And outside of really Cade, Jaden Ivey, and now Azar, it's kind of like you don't know who's going to play how much, where, and when. Because they have James Wiseman, they have Isaiah Stewart, they have Marvin Bagley, they have Jalen Duren. It's just there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of guys that deserve minutes. So I think you're going to see eventually one or two of these guys get traded. But either Bagley or Wiseman I think Duren's probably has the safest spot out of anyone, but I think one of Bagley, Wiseman, or Stewart is really going to end up being the odd man out. And I really like Bagley, and he was great with the Pistons last year in spots where they needed scoring because Cade obviously was out. Jaden Ivey was just a rookie. I think Ivey's going to take a step this year up too. But having, Cade back, Ivey, some legit offensive playmakers, and Azar, hopefully having a solid rookie season, he's another big athlete. Bagley has the potential to fit in well with this team, but I don't know how willing he is to adapt to it because I know that he likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes to be ball dominant, score in the post, or get into the mid-range, and that's just not the reality of today's NBA. And it's hard for players like that to just fully transition themselves because Bagley is a great athlete and could run the floor with this team because, again, this is a young team, not like the Pacers completely because Cade's more of a go-to scorer than a playmaker, but Ivy likes to push the pace. And they're young and athletic. Duren's also very athletic. Their wings. This is a super, super athletic team, and Bagley fits that mold. He's pretty athletic. I'm just not sure how he exactly fits in with more ball-dominant players, especially having Cade and Ivy as the backcourt.
I mean, the situation with Marvin Bagley is kind of confusing. He hasn't found a solidified role on any team, mainly due to the fact that he's more of an offensive four than he is sorry. He's more of an offensive five than he is a offensive four because he lacks an outside shot, and he's more of a offensive five. He's more of an offensive five than he is an offensive four. So he kind of his both sides of the ball kind of just don't coincide with each other in the fact that he plays like a power forward defensively and like a center offensively. So that's why he hasn't really been able to find a solidified role, and I don't really know how it's going to work this year with Jalen Duren playing power forward. But like I said, I think that Cade's development in the playmaking department might be able to help Bagley get more buckets and make his jump shot more consistent.
Yeah, and I do like him possibly playing with Duren because, again, like you said, the whole Bagley kind of does need to sit corner and just be a corner defender because he's never going to be probably a super positive player on that side of the ball, but having a guy that's athletic and a lot of rim protecting potential in Duren could definitely help make up for a lack of that lack of Bagley being a rim protector. He's obviously not been an elite rim protector. He can block some shots, but defensively and his reaction timing and IQ, that's a big part of it too, isn't exactly top tier. Moving on to the final position is going to be the center position, the big boys, the big dumpers down low. And for that, I'm going to be going with the big dumper from the Mark Williams. Well, he's not from Mark Williams. He's from Charlotte. He's on the Hornets. His name is Mark Williams. And Mark Williams is a guy that's kind of never been given a whole lot of opportunity. He was drafted in the lottery out of Duke. And, we've seen a lot of good players come out of Duke, obviously. But he's a guy that has all the tools to be exactly what Charlotte needs out of him, which is a rim protector and rebounder. They were a terrible rebounding and defensive team for pretty much all of the last 3 to 4 seasons. And it's been a struggle big time for them defending the paint and also just getting rebounds and finishing defensive possessions. Mark Williams, that's his strengths. He's super athletic for his size, a 7'2" frame. He could legitimately be like a better Roy Hibbert in his prime. I don't know why they've waited so long to give Williams opportunity, but he finally started to get that full-time starting role once Mason Plumlee was traded at the deadline. Hopefully, with a new owner and whatever, I feel like we've just been shitting on the Charlotte Hornets the past few days. But, it's like if he's starting there, perfect combination for him to be picking and rolling with LaMelo Ball because he is a massive human being and would set absolute brick wall screens, and he does. He just needs to be getting that consistent minutes. He should be playing 28 to 32 minutes per game this upcoming season, and I wouldn't surprise me if he's like top 5 in the league in blocks either, because he's an absolute disgusting shot blocker.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit from him at the end of last season, which was a very big positive. But I'm saying, imagine playing a full season with LaMelo Ball, who is one of the better playmakers that we've seen in the NBA. Like, his offensive game is 100% going to develop somewhat, and he fills the spot that the Hornets need. He fills exactly the, pieces that the Hornets need in terms of rebounding and shot blocking. I like that pick a lot.
And as I said, a lot of it's just about opportunity and team and just fit, like being in the right situation in the right time, kind of with Tyus being able to lead the way with Washington, Markelle Fultz having a very optimal team built around him. And then you look at a guy like Mark Williams, who's just exactly what the Hornets need. He's very young, and playing alongside a playmaker with LaMelo could help get him easy buckets down low. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you just go give him the ball and say, get a bucket down low. But he does have a good post hook. He's not like where he's a player like, I don't know, for sake like Mitchell Robinson or Clint Capella, who really don't have any actual shot selection or ability to do anything in the post. Mark Williams can back you down for a second and give you a nice post hook, but he can also definitely roll off the pick and roll with LaMelo and get easy looks dumped down to him inside because he's 7'2", so he can literally just dump it in the basket, and it's not really that hard. He has solid touch for his size, and I really want Mark Williams to play because I like him a lot.
We also can definitely see a very big role from him in terms of off-ball setting, like setting off-ball screens for Brandon Miller this season.
And Miles Bridges.
Because the Hornets are probably going to want to do something. I don't want to talk about Miles Bridges. The Hornets are probably
we don't have to talk about Miles Bridges.
The Hornets are probably going to do something where they're gonna get Brandon Miller off-ball screens all over the place, and they're just going to try to get him open shots. And one of the best guys that's going to be able to find him is LaMelo Ball. So personally, I think that that's going to be great next year. Hopefully, the management's a little bit better this year, and Mark Williams can actually, get the amount of minutes that he deserves.
Yeah, and I'm not going to keep, crapping on the Hornets. We won't do that. I'm just not, this would be nice, super great if this was what happens. It's just I'm not sure they're going to make the competent decision, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Last but not least, for my center breakout candidate this year, I have a young guy, Onyeka Okongwu. The Hawks got a glimpse of what he can do last year. He's going to be good. With more opportunity, he's been putting up better numbers, more points per game, more rebounds per game, more blocks per game. And he's a pretty consistent center. He's never shot below 63% in his career. I think Atlanta will give him more minutes this year just due to seeing that Clint Capella is getting up there in age if they don't move him, because there has been a lot of talks about them moving him over the past 45 seasons. But if the Hawks potentially try to move him,
that's a lot of seasons.
Yeah, if the Hawks potentially try to move him and Onyeka ends up starting, I think that he could definitely break out into a very, very, very important player for that team, especially complimenting Trey.
Yeah, he really reminds me of Bam Adebayo. My leg's bleeding. Sorry, guys, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. But, Onyeka Okongwu is a guy that he's not really a huge rim protector, but he's a very solid defender. He reminds me a lot of Bam in that aspect where he's a little bit undersized for a traditional center, but he moves very, very well. He's a solid athlete, and he can handle the ball actually a bit too for a big man. He's kind of fits that power forward / center role of, I think a lot of teams are just better off playing like that now with the technically small ball. Even though his athleticism makes up for his height, he also has a long wingspan. And even though he's not going to rack up a ton of blocks per game, he's a solid shot blocker. He's also just very smart, and he knows how to defend shots and get at the right angles to make sure that the players who are trying to score against him can't get to the spots that they want to. He's very good at moving around and help defense as well. That's why he's been able to play that power forward position at times when needed. It's just kind of, they haven't really had a real role defined for him yet. He's kind of been how Obi was with the Knicks. And now that they traded John Collins, and it seems like Capella's been on the trading block a little bit, it seems they want to get him more into that starting role. And I really hope they do because, again, he's in that situation kind of like Williams. He has an elite playmaker and Trae Young on his team that he could also develop offensively and gain a lot from.
Right, like I was about to say, we know that the Hawks love running their pick-and-roll offense. And I think that Onyeka is definitely going to, I think he's definitely going to benefit from that. Like I said, he's never shot below 63% on his career. And I don't really see that changing, especially with how many close looks he's going to get towards the rim due to a pick and roll offense with Trae Young. And
I really don't want to see him.
He'll be able to find his guys. As much as you don't want him to be able to find his guys, he's going to be able to find his guys.
But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys did like, make sure to stay tuned for more. And follow the TikTok also. We're going to have some shorter videos on there if you guys want to check those out. But leave some suggestions, comments, whatever you guys want. We'll check them out. Maybe do some videos that you leave there. But that's going to do it. Like I said, I'm Nate as always. And this is Danny. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Sir, you have a little bit of poop inside your testicles.